Is Miyamoto Musashi's school name incorrectly translated? In this video, we're going to talk about Musashi's Nito Ichiru and Nito Ichiru and have a look at whether we can improve the translation or not. My name is Anthony Cummins. I'm a historical researcher and author on Japanese military culture. Now, I'd like you to help me and by supporting me by getting a copy of my new book, The Book of Bushido. In this book, I go through what it means to actually investigate samurai chivalry. The link is in the description below and the pinned link at the top of the comments. Now let's talk about Musashi. Miyamoto Musashi records the name of his school in his famous document, the Gorin no Sho. And the name of his school is either Nito Ichiru or Nito Ichiru. And we're going to go through what they mean and how they are translated today. Now, the actual meaning of the ideograms is ni means two and to means sword or blade. So Nito is actually two blades and Niten is two heavens. So ni, two, and ten, heaven. So both of them start with the character for two but have a different second character. Why would a master of his school write two different names for the same school? The reason why he uses two is debated, but let's look at the actual breakdown and translations of these two. Almost everyone translates these in the same or roughly the same way. So Nito Ichiru becomes two swords used as one. School. So Ryu means school. Ichi is just one. So you can see it's just one dash, and for two it's two dashes. Very easy way of counting. So what we find is that most people translate these two terms in very similar ways. Niten Ichiru becomes two heavens together, and Nito Ichiru becomes two swords together. Now, two heavens, they say, means his two swords. So it means using two swords at the same time. Because surely Miyamoto Musashi is famous for two swords, so it must be true. And then the other one is Nito Ichiru is actually two swords together being used. So people have said that Nito Ichiru and Niten Ichiru actually means the same thing. A person who used two swords at the same time when they're fighting. However, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the translation. This is my theory. It's only theory, but I've checked it out with some Japanese people and they think I'm right. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Now, a mistake that's happened, I think, over the years and through all translators is they've automatically assumed that Musashi is using two swords together, which I don't think is correct. But basically that Musashi is using two swords together and therefore together as one. But actually, Ichiru has its own meaning alone. Ichiru means premier school. So when you find Ichi next to something, it usually means the best, the number one, the greatest. It's actually got even another saying. If you go down the dictionary listings for Ichi, Hitotsu, it can be Katsu, meaning one, meaning victory. Sorry, so one victory, a victory. So it actually has multiple readings. But here it is two ideograms used together and they have a specific meaning in Japanese. There is an entry in it in the dictionary. It's a physical word in Japanese and the word is Ichiru. Best school, premier tradition, premier flow, premier style. It means the best style, the best one. So instead of Nito Ichiru or Niten Ichiru, it should be divided differently. It's Niten Ichiru, Nito Ichiru. The divide is in a different place. So what does this mean? It actually means that if we start to build a translation, it is Niten, the premier school, Nito, the premier school, or the premier school of Niten, the premier school of Nito. And we can start to see the translation changes then from instead of two swords as one, it's the best school of two swords, the best school of two heavens. So let's start with Niten, two heavens. How can we get the best school of two heavens? What does that mean? Well, actually, Miyamoto Musashi has a Buddhist name and it's Niten Doraku. Hey, so things should be jumping out now. Niten Doraku. So his Buddhist name. And it's the same kanji, two heavens. And then I'm going to put the kanji on the screen for Niten Ichiru next to it. You can see the kanji is the same. So what this means is actually that the translation should be the premier school of Niten, the Buddhist name. So that means the premier school of Niten Doraku, which means the premier school of Miyamoto Musashi. Not two heavens, not two swords used together, not coming from above, not fighting from above. The premier school of Miyamoto Musashi, whose name is Niten Doraku. Okay, so just to go over that, Niten is the short version of his Buddhist name, but it's actually his Buddhist name. And Ichiru means premier school. So we arrive at the premier school of Miyamoto Musashi. So let's move on to Nito Ichiru. Now, if we take Ichiru as its dictionary form, which is premier school, premier lineage, what does Nito mean? Actually, Musashi clearly says this in his book Gorin no Sho, which is actually in the Chinomaki, the Scroll of Earth. Now, if you give me some time, I'm going to read 3 versions for you. And please stay with the video. I'm going to read 3 versions. The first one is from David Groth, okay? And in Miyamoto Musashi's own words, this is why he names the school. He says it himself. We talk about the two swords, the positions of members of the warrior class, from generals to foot soldiers, is one in which two swords are worn at the belt from the outset. Remember, two swords means warrior. In the old days, they were called tachi and katana. Now they are called katana and wakizashi. Basically, the name's changed. There is no need to write about the particulars about the wearing of these two swords. Here in our country, no matter whether one understands it or not, wearing them is the way of a member of the warrior class. In order to indicate the fundamental principle of these two swords, I call this style Nito Ichiru. The two swords, one style. So I don't agree with that, but that's Groff. But I'm sure his translation is excellent of the stuff. I just don't believe the kanji has been moved secondly. Now let's go to William Scott Wilson, and we'll do the same thing. So again, please stay with me because I want to show you every translator has done the same thing, and I hope they've got it right. They've said why he actually calls it. So Musashi says, naming this the two sword style. We speak of two swords because warriors, both commanders and soldiers, wear two swords at their waist from the very beginning. Long ago they were called tachi and katana, but now they are called katana and wakizashi. It is not necessary to write out in detail why a warrior wears these two at his waist. In our country it is the way of the warrior to wear them, whether the reason is understood or not. I call this the style of two swords in order to express their principle. Okay, so he calls it that, which is not bad actually. So basically, he says, I've called it this style because it's the principle of two swords. So let's move to Alexander Bennett. And by the way, this has probably got the best introduction on Musashi, I think. By far, I think the best. He's done some good work on this. But again, it's the same thing. So about the school, naming it Nito, Musashi says, translated by Alexander Bennett. The reason why it is called Nito is because all warriors from general to rank and file are duty bound to wear two swords in their belts. In days long gone, these swords were called tachi and katana. Now they are called katana and wakizashi. It goes without saying that the warrior is never without his two swords. Whether he knows how to use them or not is another matter. But having two swords at his side is emblematic of the path of the warrior. I call my school Nito Ichiru, the school of two swords as one. So again, the translation there, but the name of the school I just don't agree with. In Musashi's own words, he says, I name this school Nito Ichiru because samurai wear two swords. That's it. We wear two swords. And not only that, he mentions Ashigaru wearing two swords, the lower class soldiers. So he's saying it's an emblem of the warrior. So two swords he literally says the emblem of a warrior, two swords, is universally understood in Japan. It means a warrior, whether it's the lowest class warrior, the highest class warrior, whether a warrior knows how to fight or not fight, two swords means warrior. So therefore, Nito Ichiru means the premier school of warriors. A warrior's premier school. Not two swords in one fighting, the warrior's premier school. Now, in my book, I discuss this. This is actually in the new book, the Book of Bushido, and I give forth, please excuse me, I'm going to read from the book here, but I give forth the translations I deem are correct for Musashi's school. So these are the 4 translations I deem would be closer to a correct translation for Nito Ichiru. The school of the warrior way. That's italicized the school of the warrior way. The premier school of the warrior. The school of the supreme warrior. The school of warrior supremacy. And of course the other one, Ni Ten Ichiru, actually means, of course, the premier school of Musashi under his Buddhist name. So that is what I think is the real translation of Miyamoto Musashi's school in both versions that he gives. And I think it's blatantly obvious that Musashi has said that himself. Now, of course, I may be wrong, I may be right, I'm not sure. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching the video. My name is Anthony Cummins. I've spent a lot of time now travelling to Japan, and I'm digging deep, trying to find the truth about historical samurai and shinobi strategy, warfare, how Chinese culture affected Japan, lots of different things. And my newest book is the Book of Bushido. Now, actually, I would really like you to go and get a copy of this. It's actually in the pinned link below, the pinned comment. So please go straight there. It'll take you to the US Amazon page. But if you're from somewhere else than the US, please find it on your own Amazon page. And what I've done is try to find the reality of what Bushido means. Many people jump to many different conclusions with Bushido, the same as they do with Musashi, and I spent a long time, and it's a bit of a colossal book, going through what I believe is proper samurai behavior, whether that's good or bad behavior, but how did the samurai really behave? And it's here it's out very, very soon, and it's called the Book of Bushido. Thank you very much. See you next time.